Holy injuries, Batman. Is there going to be anyone left on an active roster in the NFL?
Herbert and Kurt, battle of 0-2s. Who's going to come out the winner this week?
Are the Niners shaping up to be the best team in the league right now?
Joe Burrow, will he be ready for Monday night? Cincinnati hopes so.
All that and more as we break down week 3 on Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee.
Welcome back to the week 3 preview here on Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee and my man Nutmeg 2 Palmetto. It's been a wild couple weeks, and it's only going to get more interesting, my friend. Injuries are running rampant. Don't know what's going on, man. Tell me what's going on.
We're gonna do a little deep dive on who's actually left on the field after all this aftermath of carnage has been sorted left and right.
This is nuts. It's like you're sitting there looking, especially if you're playing fantasy, you're looking at your team going, do I have anybody?
Yeah.
You're like, do I have anybody? It's unreal, the injuries. Scary.
So let's address right off the top the most recent game of the week, of course, the San Francisco. The Giants hung around with them for a little bit, but as expected, the Niners pulled away, made it look a little not as close as it probably did earlier. So the Niners currently sit as the first and currently only 3-0 team in the league. Is this a legit 3-0? Are they really the best team in the league, or is it a little bit of fool's gold because they whooped up on a Steelers team that's kind of rebuilding? They had a little bit of a dogfight with the Rams, and then they just whooped up on this Giants team who's been a little slow to get off the track this year.
Well, let's see. 2 out of the 3 teams preseason were destined for playoff greatness. Let's be honest. Everyone's riding high on the Steelers, and the Giants. So I think they're legit. If you watched the game last night, the Giants they're not an elite team, but they're a solid team, playoff team from last year. Like you said, they hung around for a little bit, but the Niners are just stacked at most positions. So it was just a matter of time before, the Niners were going to take over. And let's be honest, Brock is still getting still getting back and playing shape. Let's be real, with the arm injury and everything. So, no, the game went pretty much how I thought it would. The Giants just don't have enough to go toe-to-toe. The Giants can't fall behind. The Giants have to dictate the game from beginning to end. If they get down by 2 touchdowns, I don't know if they can come back. Saquon hurt. Not having Saquon, I think maybe would have made it a little closer. But defensively, the Niners are just stacked. It's just no contest.
Yeah, I was actually surprised it wasn't a deeper hole earlier than it was. But do you think so? Brock's like you said, he's still trying to get his feet under him, but there's a lot of weapons on this team, and maybe it was almost a blessing in disguise that Ayuk didn't play Thursday because that's one less person to want to get balls their way. But between McCaffrey and Debo, Ayuk when he's healthy, Kittle, do you forecast any kind of infighting that could be hey, I'm not getting my touches?
No, I think this team is mature enough to know that they're there for a goal and it's a Super Bowl at this point. Everyone's pretty much gotten their contracts. They've paid out a lot of money over the last couple of years. So I think at this point, it's Super Bowl or bust for this team. It has to be. They're getting a little older. They're still in their prime, but they are getting older. Kittle's been nicked up the last couple of years. He seems pretty healthy for the most part. Bosa just signed his massive deal. So this team is primed to win. If they don't win the Super Bowl in the next couple of years, people are really going to start questioning what's going on there. Like, there's no reason that this team shouldn't be NFC championship the next 3 years at the minimal. So it's Super Bowl or bust, point blank.
And speaking of nicked up, do you think McCaffrey is a ticking time bomb, or has he kind of put his injury woes in the past?
I hope so, because he's an electric player. He's unbelievable. When he's healthy, he's probably the best back in the league, overall. I think the way they use Debo kind of helps offset that. They can kind of give him his rest, but they also have to be careful because, running Debo at, running back has, proved a little costly in the past. So I think the way they run that offense kind of warrants watching what they do with Debo. But when it comes to McCaffrey, I think they're going to be okay. I think they know when to use them and when to pull them back. I think that offense has enough plays in the playbook where it's not McCaffrey 24/7, where they can, go to the pass. Even the backups are playing well. So I think his health, they're keeping an eye on it. They're not going to run him into the ground.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be all right.
As far as players that have been run into the ground early this year.
The question is, who hasn't been run into the ground? This is a hot mess.
Yeah, you know what? At that point, it might be a longer conversation to talk about who is still playing.
Exactly. Joe Flacco may show up. We joked about him a couple weeks ago. Joe Flacco may show up. Another quarterback goes down. There you go. These old guys are coming back. They may call number 12, Mr. Brady, to come back. You never know. But still.
In gangrene, how ironic would that be? Can you imagine?
It'd be the hardest jersey for me to buy. It would be the hardest thing.
You were all gung ho about buying Aaron Rodgers one a few weeks ago.
Aaron Rodgers. It's different. It's different. The only reason I tolerate him is because I felt the Jets were strong enough to beat the Chiefs. That's all it was. That's all it was. If he was on some other team, I would have been caught dead in that junk. Gosh, Chase, you know how this goes, man. You know how this is. Anyways.
Well, as we knew, Aaron Rodgers, of course, went down a mere 3 plays into the season with his torn Achilles, and then J.K. Dobbins, he also, I believe that was a knee injury, right? He got taken out for the year. 2 additional players have joined them in the ranks of shelved for the remainder of 2023, and that is, of course, one is Nick Chubb, which on Monday night, he took that absolutely dreadful hit to his knee, bent his knee back to the Stone Age. And then this week, Trayvon Diggs had a bit of a freak accident in practice and tore his ACL. Now he is out for the year. So which one of these do you think is more impactful for their team season?
Oh, Chubb. There's no doubt. Watson is not playing good. Let's be realistic. I think Cleveland, if not yet, will soon sit there and kind of regret the contract. He is not the Texans Watson that they thought they were getting. Everyone was like, oh, he needs more time. He needs more time. Well, he played the last 3 games last year. He's had a full off season. He's had preseason. What's the issue? Chubb has driven that offense since he's been in the league, and this hurts them immensely. Now they signed, Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's back, so he may help a little bit, but right now everyone's looking at Watson. If Watson does not perform, there's issues in Cleveland. So for me, it's Cleveland 100%. Dallas, if you look at that defense is stacked. That secondary is unbelievable. With signing Gilmore, they've got Bland there. They've got guys there who can step up. And with that front 7, that creates constant pressure. They'll be okay. They'll weather the storm. They'll be fine. So I don't see an issue with the Cowboys, but Cleveland clearly took a big hit.
Well, Cleveland. So you think that Jerome Ford's performance after Chubb went down is more of a flash in the pan? You don't think he's a long-term option?
I don't know. I don't think we've seen enough of him to say. It's one of those things where years ago, do you remember Jonah Gray for New England? he had that game, I believe it was against the Colts, puts up 4 touchdowns, and everyone swears
Oh, yeah, I
he
remember.
was the new thing. And then after that, he did absolutely nothing,
Yeah,
left the league, and no one even knew.
decided he was going to
So
be LeGarrette Blunt for a day and then disappeared.
exactly, he had his one day in the sun, and everyone thought, "Oh, this guy is it." New England's found another guy, and he was gone just like that. I need to see more out of Ford. I'm hoping that's not the case. If they could unearth, Chubb 2.0, and then, Kareem Hunt can open up the passing game a bit for them, then that would be great. But if Ford can't do it and he's averaging 40, 50 yards a game, you can't run Hunt like that. Hunt will not survive. He's not built that way.
No.
He's a passing back. He's a receiving back. That's what he is. So it just behooves them to get Watson going. I don't know what you got to change in the playbook, but you need Watson to carry a little more of this offense, because if not, they'll be out of the playoffs by Thanksgiving. It will not be pretty.
Do you think he has the weapons to do that? Because Amari Cooper was almost invisible until late in that game.
Here's the thing: they need another receiver, because Njoku, they signed him to that decent deal a few years ago. He's decent. He's not a top 5 tight end. You're not expecting that, but you're expecting some kind of production out of him, and he's just not getting it. Because they lack that now, they're going to clamp on him. He's going to be non-existent for who knows how long now. They need a quality number 2, because everyone's just going to clamp down on Cooper and just say, all right, go ahead, Watson, create. And for some reason, Watson just can't do it. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he just doesn't have it yet. Maybe it just hasn't clicked, but it needs to click now. They need to figure it out. I don't know if they're just going to try to ground and pound it and maybe hope their defense will hold up, because now the onus is on that defense. Everyone was like, "Ooh, that defense is pretty good. It could be an elite defense." Well, now you're going to have to be. You're going to have to be. Are you going to win 17 to 14 games now?
Yeah.
Are you going to be the new Minnesota and win last minute games throughout the season and pull it out? Because right now that division is almost up for grabs.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Well, Baltimore's 2-0, but they've looked pretty shaky.
Yeah, and they've got injuries piling up now. They could lose this week. There's a lot of injuries. There's no real clear cut right now in that division. Yep. Yeah, here we go. There we go.
Guy can dream.
Minshew mania, baby. Here we go. Uncle Rico, go to the playoffs. Get ready for it. Hey, you know what? I'd love the story. It'd be something special, man. Imagine that. Uncle Rico taking them out. But yeah, Cleveland is the team that is really going to feel the impact of the injury. I really do.
Why do you think Dallas can withstand this Diggs injury? Is it a matter of their depth, or is it a matter of him being just more of a home run defensive back as opposed to a true cover corner?
Defensively, they're strong all over the field. Micah Parsons is just he's a beast. He's unbelievable. And that defensive front seven is so strong that Parsons is the first person you think of, but you've got other guys. You got Dexter Lawrence. You got all these other guys that are just they're gonna eat, because everyone is so. It's almost like the Aaron Donald effect now.
Mm-hmm.
You concentrate on one guy so much, other guys are going to start to perform.
Mm-hmm.
They are a sound defensive unit, and that offense is solid. That offense should put up points. They're a good offensive team. So I think, even though you want Diggs on the field, of course, you want all your best players, but I think they can weather the storm. And with the NFC being as light as it is right now, they can survive. Playoffs, it's going to be interesting. Once we get to that bridge, we'll see where the standings are, where everybody fits in. But right now, they have that next man up mentality. So I don't think they're going to really fall back that much. They'll miss him, but not enough.
Do you think an ACL will affect, going into next year when he's healed, rehab, that sort of thing? Do you think an ACL will affect the way he plays?
No, Nowadays, if this was like 5, 6 years ago, I think you have that worry. But the way guys bounce back from these injuries now, it's almost like it's okay, I blew it out. Fine, let me do what I got to do. I'll be back next year. No problem. Here I am. He's young enough where I think he bounces back. Now, if he was an older guy, if you're talking, Gilmore's age, kind of sitting there, starting to hit that other side of your career, I think it maybe affects him a bit. He's got to play a little differently, but he's young. He's going to bounce back. I don't see it being an issue.
You brought up the man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Rico. A moment ago.
Uncle Rico, love that man.
He gets a shot this week, and there are a couple rookie quarterbacks down for the count for at least a week. My guy Anthony Richardson, after that freak snap concussion play on the second touchdown last week, and then Bryce Young, who got banged up for a bit and looking like he's getting the Andrew Luck, David Carr treatment in Carolina, getting sacked all the time. So my ginger brother and Andy Dalton will be going
the Red Rifle himself back again.
So who do you think is best set up to have a successful week?
Uncle Rico.
Uncle Rico?
Uncle Rico, and it's the offensive line. The Panthers' offensive line is horrible, man. That's a rough line. Like, they've got to figure that out quick, because if not, Bryce is going to end up a mess. He won't make it through the season. Everyone's worried about his size to begin with.
Yeah.
And he can't run for his life. Like, you can't have him scrambling around, and just making sure he's going to survive for the next week. It's ridiculous. That they need to figure out that offensive line and figure it out now. It's either that or you get yourself a back, because Miles Sanders is decent, but he's not a bruiser.
No.
Maybe you find yourself a bruiser. Maybe, there's some guys out there. Leonard Fournette still out there. Playoff Lenny. I miss you. But, you get yourself a guy who can bang a bit and take some pressure off of Bryce, because he's not going to survive behind that line. Not at all. Rico looked good when he stepped in, The guy's a veteran. He knows what to do. He knows to get rid of the ball. He can take a hit. You don't want him to, of course, because, you want him to survive. But he seems to know that offense pretty well. So I would think Uncle Rico's the guy.
It would be really nice if Chuba Hubbard actually played like he was supposed to, because that could be the bruising back for the Panthers, and he just hasn't shown up in his career thus far.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the offense. It's weird. Like, are they now sitting there saying, "Wow, Bryce is smaller. Bryce is small. I don't know if this is going to work." That was all fun during the draft. You're taking this guy. It's all pretty in the preseason, and now it's real deal. There was that one play where, like, he lined up behind the wrong line, didn't even line up behind the center,
behind the guard or something. Yeah,
behind the guard, and freaking Sanders is like, "Yo, man, you gotta move," and it's like, what's going on here? And they say he's cerebral and all of this. Maybe the kid's sitting there going, "Man, I don't like my life right now. This is not fun." So,
I mean, in his defense, he's probably gotten beaten around enough in 2 games that he might lose his bearings a little bit on the field.
Exactly. It's one of those things where, Andy Dalton might not survive. Let's be real. Dalton might take a hit this week.
Older guy.
They really need to figure out what is going on with this offensive line and get it fixed and quick, because if not, those quarterbacks will not survive.
The other thing that doesn't help with them is when Bryce actually did get enough time, his receivers couldn't catch the ball. Mingo was dropping passes. Thielen was dropping. Thielen we expected to just be like sure hands. He's going to rake this year with Bryce, because Bryce is going to need some reliable target to throw to, and he couldn't reel in half the passes that came his way.
I think with Thielen, everyone is seeing Thielen for what he was and not what he is now. I think with the injuries and such, he slowed down a bit. The guy still got solid hands. There's, I'm not going to take that away from him, but he's not the Thielen of his prime. And yeah, other guys are dropping balls and such. It's going to be tough for Young. He needs big guys. He needs a really, really good tight end. Hurst is nice and all, but you need some guy who you're going to throw the ball to, like a Mark Andrews. He needs somebody like that. and they need to run the ball. They need to commit to really, handing the ball off and pounding it. That's what he needs. And right now they're not doing that. The line is horrible. It's a mess. Guys are dropping balls. Bryce is running for his life. His ankle's busted now, so it's I don't know. I don't know what to expect from them this week. I don't know if it's going to be a pared down playbook where it's like, okay, you can't trust the line, quick short passes, because that's what it's going to have to be. And if they do that with Bryce coming back, his size plays a role in that. When you're throwing those quick passes out, those guys are just putting their arms up. And if he can't get over that, don't worry about the Panthers, man. Shoot for next year. Top 5 pick in your future, man. Top 5.
Yeah. The season tickets are going to stay cheap.
They're going to stay cheap. And their defense is kind of getting bbanged up too. They've got, Shaq's out. He's the heart and soul of that defense. So now it's like, okay, now who it is? They've got athletes, but it needs to be a cohesive unit. And right now, I don't think the defense is that. That defense is not going to carry them.
Yeah. Well, as far as expectation goes, what are my expectations? Uncle Rico's under center against the Baltimore Ravens. Should I be keeping my already low expectations humble, or should I be expecting a little bit of a surprise this week?
I would go in there thinking you're going to win. Honestly, no. Us as fans, of course, we sit there and try to be, we got to temper our expectations. And when you start to see a couple things go well, you're scared because you're like, oh man, it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad. But let's be honest, the Ravens really haven't lit it up. They've got some injuries. That Indy defense is solid. They hung with Jacksonville. If they play that kind of defense against the Ravens, they've got a shot to win. They really do.
A team that's much easier to defend than I know Lamar Jackson might be the hardest person to defend in the league, but as a whole, the Baltimore Ravens are a lot easier to defend than some of the Jaguars.
Because right now, I am assuming Gus the Bus is going to be he's starting at running back. Justice Hill, I think, is out. Who else is out? OBJ. They got some guys on defense that are nicked up. So it's a situation where if they play smart ball, they could win. It might be an ugly game, 14-13, but they could win. So no, I would go in confident. Why not?
Dropping like flies. Speaking of dropping like flies, a big star that missed last week and looking like he's going to miss this week is Austin Ekeler out with the Chargers.
Why, you fantasy gods? Why?
Hey, I'm screaming too. He's on 2 of my teams, so.
Yeah, this is rough. This is rough for them because Kelly did not play well last week.
Yeah, as if the Chargers weren't having a rough season already.
Seriously, like this was gonna be the year. Like at this point, you sign Joe, you give Herbert his money. This is it. They pick up Quentin Johnson there. In the draft, they're ready. They're set. They're healthy. And now it's like you're 0-2 and you're fighting for your lives. You are fighting for your coach is fighting for his life right now.
Yeah.
He needs this win. There is no doubt.
I mean, can they withstand Eckler's absence just by chucking it down the field a lot, or is he, or are they actually go, or do they actually miss him?
Oh, I think they miss him because I believe he gives that he makes that offense run. Let's be honest. He can run the ball and he can catch it. It opens it up for the receivers. It's just that extra dimension in your offense. So now you're going to hope Kelly's going to give you something better than 40 yards. And you're going to have to throw. Now you're playing Minnesota, and Minnesota's a mess in its own self. Its defense isn't the greatest. So we could be looking at a crazy explosion of points right now. It could be who makes the least amount of mistakes, who survives.
Yeah.
Because right now, either these guys go down 0-3, it's going to be rough.
A couple guys that are stars that have not been ruled out, but it may happen by the time game time rolls around. Jalen Waddle with the Dolphins and then concussion protocol after the New England game. And Joe Burrow that calf injury sneaking up. And I had a feeling, we talked about this in preseason, I had a feeling that was going to hang around. So these two, I mean, I guess the easy answer is Burrow's more affected on the team because he's the quarterback. But
Right.
like, what kind of weight do these injuries have on their teams as their outlook for the season, the remaining of the season, I guess.
Burrow is the immediate one.
Yeah.
Burrow, because like you said, he's the quarterback. It's an immediate. Okay, if he's not playing, okay, so next guy up, here we go. That offense changes drastically. The defense has to carry the weight a little bit. Carried a lot more, excuse me. So I think Burrow, long term, I think Miami has to be careful with Waddle because you don't want a Tua situation like you had last year when everyone questioned how you handled his concussions. You know,
Yeah.
you need to say, okay, you know what, Waddle, we've got enough weapons. We're going to be okay. We're going to check you next week, see how you are, because you need him for the playoffs. You need him for that deep run. Because right now, everyone's kind of starting to slowly jump on the Miami bandwagon to say, maybe this is the team that dethrones Mahomes. So Cincinnati, I don't know. You can't do anything until Burrow's healthy. He's got to be close to 100% before you can even think about playoffs. Because right now it's a mess. And calves, if you listen to some athletes, some guys have said it was like 6 to 9 weeks before they were back. Maybe did he rush it back? Did they say, okay, no, you're good. We're going to do this. If he's not good, then you sit him. You just paid this man. He needs to be there for the next 10 to 12 years. He's your guy. If that means you're going to lose some games, then you lose the games this year because he's long term. So Miami's built better to withstand the injury issue for sure. But Cincinnati's got a problem and they need to figure it out now.
They shot Joe Burrow up like Lawrence Taylor at any given Sunday and trotted him out there.
Yeah, and you saw how that ended up. Oh, not good at all.
So we've talked the Thursday game, we've talked some headlines. We spent a little bit of extra time on the headlines because this is normally the time in the show we talk about the three best games. But we were going down the schedule and there's not a lot of good games this week.
No, if you were to, when we talked in the preseason about how things were going to go, a lot more games had a lot more intrigue to them.
Yeah.
But with the injuries and just the poor play, it's slim pickings this week.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where I think the best game this week is your game hosting Philadelphia Eagles, but that's Monday night. We can talk about that game plenty in our Monday morning quarterback show set on Monday night.
Yeah.
So I kind of we'll pivot a little bit and talk the games with the most intrigue. The first of which is the Let's Ride Broncos. Now sitting at 0-2. And I think you may be onto something from last week with Sean Payton. He just wants to burn Russ out and kind of flip public opinion so they can send him off on his merry way at some point at the end of the year. They go down to South Beach. They're playing the Red Hot Dolphins. Obviously, they had that shootout win week 1 with the Chargers. They went up to Foxborough. They didn't quite get on the scoring run that we kind of thought they would, but they still got out of there with a dub. So do you just kind of expect more of the same in this game? Broncos going to be in for a rough week, and Miami's going to roll?
I don't like the Broncos, and I think the Broncos should just sit there and cut the ties. Honestly, Russ is a mess. He got lucky on that last-minute heave last week. Exactly. The ball was like 5 yards before the end zone and somehow bounced its way in. It's rough. I think Peyton's like, all right, you go ahead and do it. Burn yourself out, because I think he may sit there and say, you know what, I'll take the first pick in the draft. Why not? At this point, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't like this team at all. It doesn't feel like they're cohesive in any way. It's just not good football. At this point, those guys need to be playing for pride or something, because if you go down 0-3 in that division, I think you're done. I really think you've buried yourself. because you need to win. You definitely need to win the games out of division, let alone you pray for the splits for the way that division's built and the games out you're supposed to. At this point, if Russ was where we thought he would have been, this would have been like, wow, Russ and Tua, here we go, And now it's like, okay, so how many yards you think Hill's gonna get? Like, if I'd be surprised if he doesn't put up like 120. Like, and that's just a slow day.
Yeah, like where do we set the over under for Reek at this point? 115 a week?
Exactly. You got Denver coming into hot Miami, and they're gonna toast them. It's not gonna be pretty. So Russ is it's time. The time is just ticking away on him. Someone will trade for him, or they'll send him somewhere because they'll believe they can fix him, and he'll finish off his career somewhere being an average at best quarterback.
No.
He's taking a bus. He's taking a bus now. He isn't riding anything. He's taking the bus.
You know what? He should have handed that ball off to Marshawn Lynch because he would have had his 2 rings and his legacy would have been set, and he wouldn't have to deal with all this talk right now.
But you know what? Those things don't happen, and this man thanks you. Ding. Hey, you know what? Hey, you know what? It's one of those great stories that we'll always talk about. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Malcolm Butler got himself a truck. He had himself a couple of years of goodness, and there you go. Life is
another one that disappeared off the face of the earth.
Exactly. So Seattle knew what they had. They said, okay, traded them off. It was almost like New England. We'll get rid of you a year earlier than a year later. And they talk about guys falling off the cliff. Russ is forget falling off the cliff. The cliff just fell out from underneath them. For them to save this season, Russ needs to perform, and they have to win. They have to win this week. I don't see them coming back from 0-3. No way. Not the way that team is built. No way.
Should that not happen and Miami comes out to 3-0, how does that shape up the Dolphins this year? Because they were kind of our forgotten team in this logjam of division. And of course, now the Jets don't look like they were going to, and the Patriots have dug themselves a hole, and Buffalo's been a little up and down. So how does a 3-0 Dolphins team look as this early season ticks along?
I think you have to look at them as the best in the AFC.
Oh, lofty. Oh.
If you look at the games everyone's played, KC is still off. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this, about the play calling and everything. Does Eric Bieniemy not being there have anything to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know you got receivers who can't catch anything. Can't catch a cold, can't catch nothing. But they don't look good at all. Like, they don't. Like, Kansas City they look like Buffalo to me. Like, there's no, wow, that signature Mahomes win. I know it's early, but they have been off. I know Kelsey was hurt, but still, they don't look that great. Miami has looked clean. And yeah, they played a tough one against New England, but you knew New England's defense was solid. They have a solid defense. That was going to be the high point of New England. They were going to have a great defense, and they were hoping Mac Jones was going to be able to put up 17 points maybe, and they were going to eke some stuff out. But no, right now, Miami's it. Now, 3 weeks from now, that could totally flip. But right now, as we approach the first quarter, Miami's the best team in the AFC.
Get ready to punch your tickets for an all Sunshine State championship weekend.
We're not talking about those things. Stop that. Stop that. I know
what you care. You're an NFC fan now. What do you care?
You still don't do that. You don't do things. It's way too early. Wait till week 6. But yeah, right now, Miami, I think, is just the strongest team in the AFC right now. Now, if KC comes out and just lights it up, and Tony learns how to catch, and Sky Moore can do something, and they can run the ball because their defense is solid, then okay, they may turn into a 17-14 type team now. I don't know, but I'm hanging my hat on Tua. He's playing great. I'm impressed.
Yeah. next kind of intriguing game a bit is another 2-0 team hosts this week. That's Washington. Now, of course, they got the Cardinals in week 1. They struggled with them a little bit, but they still pulled it out. And then last week, refresh my memory.
Washington, that game was so forgettable. I don't even remember who they played. That's horrible. We don't know what we're doing here. Washington. And you know what? I have to give Washington their due.
Terry McLaurin caught a touchdown. I
Given,
know he did. Finally showed up.
No one's given Washington anything. Like Sam Howell is playing well. That they just grind it. They're a grinded team. So they're playing like no one's giving them a chance. They know it. They're like, people think we're the worst in the NFC East, and you know what? We're going to be that. So we're just going to play. Eric Bieniemy has really kind of turned that offense around. I also think with Dan Snyder disappearing, I think that's kind of changed the outlook. Yeah, exactly. The weight is off. Now we can just play. We don't have to worry about walking in and people asking us questions about our owner and all of this. So now, the flip side of that, Buffalo, I think they're still playing. They're playing for something. They want to be in that upper level, upper echelon. They've been uneven, so I think it's going to be a good game. I think it might be a little closer, than what we think, but this is a game Buffalo should win.
Well, that's of course the next thing. Did you see enough out of them against the Raiders to help you believe that Buffalo's climbing back a little bit and they're going to bring Washington back down to earth and get the ball rolling on their own season?
See, Buffalo should have beat the Raiders. The Raiders are just a hodgepodge too, and we can get into that whenever. The Raiders are the Raiders. Buffalo played a cleaner game. He played a cleaner game. So I give them credit. Josh Allen, played quality Josh Allen football. But they still need that game where everything just jives and, they go in and there's no doubt right now. And they haven't had it yet. Still early. But Buffalo should win the game. But if you were to tell me Washington somehow ekes out last-minute field goal, it wouldn't surprise me either, because I could see Buffalo kind of falling back and saying, oh, we're back, and then not taking Washington seriously, and Washington just hitting them in the mouth. So I think that one will be a fun game. That'll be a fun one.
Who would you take? I know you just said Miami's the best team in the AFC, but head to head, who do you take right now between Buffalo and Miami?
Taking Miami.
Okay.
I think Miami is cleaner. Quarterback wise, I think Tua is more confident. I think Josh I think they're still up and down as to what they are. Mm-hmm. I think there's still issues with Diggs. They're going to tell us whatever they want to tell us and be like, oh yeah, great. Yeah, everyone's happy. The wide receivers are a little off after Diggs. I'm not confident in them. The run game is adequate. Defense is okay. I just think Miami has more potent weapons.
Yeah.
And mind you, Tyreek doesn't have to catch the ball doesn't have to put up 120 yards because he's so dynamic. He controls what your defense does. So everyone else is gonna eat. So right now, I believe Miami is the better overall team. So,
speaking of teams that are not the better overall team in the early going this season, two teams that have very much looked like the dumpster fires in the first quarter of the season, the Chargers and the Vikings both sit at 0-2, and they clash this week. So you would think, save for the possibility of a tie, someone's got to win.
Is this how the script was written this year? Really, whoever wrote this script really needs to be talked to, because this is a hot mess. We would not have thought that these two teams would have been 0-2 going into week 3. We were high on the Chargers. and we felt Minnesota was going to be solid. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers. All I know is there's a ton of talent on that team, and they should at least be 1-1. I'll give you the first game because it was a shootout with Miami, but come on, this is not good. I'm telling you.
Titans.
Kellen Moore is sitting there waiting for his headset, waiting for his head coaching headset. He's like, "Go ahead, coach, just tear it down because I'm going to turn it into something special." He's got his special playbook hidden because he knows he's the next up. This team is rough. Now, mind you, Ekeler's hurt. I get it, but still, the weapons on this team, and offensively and defensively, they got to win a game. Minnesota, just trade Kurt now. It's over.
Yeah.
No, like they just don't have it. Like they're not gonna somehow flip this and win the next 10 games by last possession like they did last year. Like it's not gonna happen. Their defense is okay. They're missing Dalvin Cook. There's no doubt about it. They are missing Dalvin Cook. You should have paid the guy. If you really thought that you wanted to make the playoffs, you should have paid the guy. I think he's worth $10 million a year. Don't know about anybody else, but I do. So right now, you know, the Jets were like, yeah, come on over. Sorry, Aaron's hurt, but hey, come on over.
Yeah.
So now you've got two wounded animals. And the question is, who's going to pull it out? You want to say the Chargers just because of the talent that's there? But they could mess this up in a heartbeat.
I could see them messing it up this week because Kirk Cousins has put up a lot of production in the first two games. He's put up some turnovers too, but there's not much for him to work with. The fact that he's put up any type of respectable numbers is a miracle in of itself.
Well, you know, you're on the field long enough, you're gonna put up the numbers regardless. Now, I think people kind of forget the Chargers still have quality on defense, you know, so it's one of those things where is Kirk going to make that mistake and, you know, throw that pick to Derwin James? Is it going to be a Bosa sack? Because we'll see the other Bosa, you know, so I don't know. It's like I said, if you got it's a fantasy game. If you've got anyone on these teams, you put them in and you watch them light it up because I think it's going to be 30 plus points per team. It's going to be whoever survives.
Yeah, yes or no question. Chargers lose. Is Staley gone?
No, but I believe it's the beginning of the end.
Okay.
They'll give him week 3. If they are like 1-5, he's got to be gone.
Yeah.
Either that or they're just like, we like you way too much. Here we go. But because they will be calling for his head. Charger fans and everyone will be like, why do you still have him? If he loses, he's on the hot seat and it's watch time. It's watch time.
Yeah. I mean, if this goes on too long and he's still there, he's going to become like Jason Garrett was to Jerry Jones.
He said Garrett. I like him so much. Yeah, go 2-14. I still like you. We're going to keep you.
Yeah.
But no, with what the money that's invested, especially in Herbert, no, he's gone. And they're, like I said, Moore's going to walk in there and say, okay, here are the real plays, and here you go. That's what's going to happen. They can't. There's too much money invested. No, they lose this week. It's the watch. He's the first coach that's probably going to get bounced.
Yeah. To wrap the show, we're going to have some fun with some extra segments we haven't talked to. The first one, we're going to call back to our Niners discussion for a little bit. They gave Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch extensions this week. Is this too much too soon to lock them up for a team that has had a lot of success, but has not really necessarily sniffed the Super Bowl yet? I mean, I guess they were there when they lost to the Chiefs, but you know, it wasn't like.
I'm split because they've done a great job. Like, let's be honest. If you look at that roster is built extremely well. That roster is built to win now. They've got all pros all over the place. Let's be realistic. So from that aspect, they've worked hard. They've built this team. Okay. The flip of it is, okay, you guys have been good for a while now. We need to win a Super Bowl. Like NFC championship games don't cut it anymore. Like
Right.
at this point, it's almost like a participation trophy.
Yeah.
For the talent that they have, they need to win a Super Bowl. And I understand, they lost against the Chiefs, Jimmy G, it is what it is. Do you believe Brock is your guy? If you do, okay, fine. If they don't make the Super Bowl this year and it's because Brock doesn't perform, I think the Cousins to San Fran chants get a little louder. Actually, I think they get extremely loud because at this point, he's perfect for that offense. He doesn't have to do too much. He's got a defense behind him. They would be all in to win it. So,
well, okay. Tie these two topics together then. Where's it more likely if Cousins gets traded? Where's it more likely he winds up? Is it with the Jets or is it in San Francisco?
It's got to be San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers is not going to put up with that. Let's be realistic. Aaron it's all been roses and everything, going the Knicks games, and it was all great in the preseason. Him and Sauce got their handshake. Life is good. Fortunately, the guy gets hurt. I get it. But no, do you think that Aaron's going to say, okay, I'm healthy, but, you're going to bring, Cousins in here and I'm going to sit the bench next year? Because what happens? If Cousins comes in and wins a Super Bowl, are you okay? Fine. Do you let him go? Let's say he clicks with Wilson and everybody on that offense, and it's good. Do you sit there and say, this could be the next couple of years? Aaron, how long are you gonna be here?
Yeah.
You're not gonna and especially in New York, you are not gonna. That's a dumpster fire waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You are not gonna do that. So at this point, if I'm the Vikings and it's, if you think he's going to leave, you got to get something for him. If the Niners are kind of like, Purdy gets hurt or something like that, or it just doesn't work out this year, they just sign him. There you go.
Yeah.
Cousins is the fit there.
I mean, the other argument is, of course, traditionally you send the player out of conference, right?
You do, but
normally that's reserved for good teams, and Minnesota is far from that.
It's true, but I think more and more, I think you look at it and I think it all depends on the situation. If you feel that team is still players away, you're like, all right, go ahead. Because by the time they're good, that quarterback's gone. He's not like the Lions, sending Stafford to the Rams. They knew the Rams were going to sit there and they were going all in for a year. The Lions knew they weren't going to be good, whatever they got back. So go ahead, win your ring. We did it as a favor to you. Your team is going to be absolutely mess in a couple years, which they kind of are. They've got some young talent, but they're far from what they were. So I think depending on how the team is, you still can trade in conference. Don't forget, man, Bill Belichick traded Drew Bledsoe to the Bills. He didn't care.
That's right. Not just in conference, but in division.
He said, go ahead, take him. He's our $100 million quarterback. Go for it. So it's tough, but this game is going to be nasty.
A team we thought was going to be nasty was the Atlanta Falcons, and they've somehow come out shining like a rose to a 2-0 record. Now they go up to Detroit. I'm feeling like this is going to be a little bit of a come down to earth moment for the Atlanta Falcons. Do you agree, or do the Falcons have some tricks up their sleeve?
Here's the deal. You got to stop the run. You stop the run and you make Atlanta throw the ball. Because let's be honest, it's been the Bijan show.
Bijan's been incredible in 2 games.
And I give the kid credit. Right now the Falcons are looking like the smartest men in the room. We took him 8th, and here we go. This guy's driving the offense. It's been the run game. It hasn't been the pass game because Ritter's been horrible.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts is running around with no one around him. No one. It's like he's like going and buying peanuts and beer, coming back down. No one. There's nothing.
And Ritter's still sitting in the pocket.
Still, yeah. somehow holding up in the pocket. I give Atlanta that O-line. They're incredible because they're giving that guy tons of time, and he still can't complete a pass.
Bryce
So
Young, Bryce Young sitting there thinking, why me?
he's like, I could have went there. Maybe I shouldn't have been as good. Like, let's be real. So it comes down now. The Lions are a bit beat up on defense this week, but if the Lions can contain the run, the Lions can win this game. St. Brown's a little nicked up. I don't know if I think he's questionable. He may play still. I think it's going to be a battle of the young running backs. And I would take the Lions because I like Goff. I think Goff's played well so far this year. I think he's become that quarterback where he can find a way to win, and he's become smarter.
Yeah.
So I need to see Atlanta do everything offensively. I need to see them throw the ball. They've got to throw the ball because if not, then just be a run team for the season, and maybe tank the season. Get yourself a quarterback because Ritter is just not it. I don't think he's the guy, and they're gonna have to find themselves a quarterback because unfortunately they're gonna run those young kids into the ground. They are gonna run those running backs into the ground, and they're gonna have nothing. So they've got to not trade Kyle Pitts. He'll get you some picks. Figure it out. You've got talent there. Drake London, talent, wide receiver. Those guys are only getting a couple looks a game. That's not good.
I'm sure Kyle Pitts and Drake London would love to play on a team with a quarterback that could actually hit them.
Think about it. If I'm one of these teams that needs Giants, why not? Figure it out. They need a weapon. They need a freaking receiver, like a hole in the head. There's teams out there that need, pass catchers. So why not at this point? Because if you're just going to let Kyle Pitts sit there and kind of rot out, once his contract's and he's gone, he's going to light it up somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this game will be interesting because you'll really see what Ritter is because they're going to force him to throw. And I think you have to. That's why you beat Atlanta.
I mean, if we see the Lions defense against Atlanta that we saw against the Chiefs on opening night, done.
Oh, it's over. Then the questions coming out of Atlanta are, where's our quarterback?
Yeah.
Let's find somebody.
Hey, Taylor Heineke's sitting there.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you this.
He's the NFC's Mike White.
Exactly. Heineke is good. I don't know why that guy just does. Someone didn't pick it. He should be starting somewhere. I think he's got it. He has that it factor. He plays smart. He doesn't make mistakes. He could be the guy. I'll tell you this. If they go on a bit of a dumpster run there, you put him in, he could turn them around. They could be the new Washington Commanders. Could be that team. Get to the playoffs, make some noise.
The last game we'll talk before we wrap up is Detroit's NFC North counterpart, and with Chicago kind of being a flaming mess and Minnesota being almost as much of a flaming mess. If the Lions can put the Falcons back in their place, maybe the Packers can put the Saints back in their place, and then they will be at a tie at 2-1 atop the division. How does this game hosting the Saints stack up to you? Because Jordan Love, they put on that show in the second half against the Bears, and then the game last week against Atlanta, they really kind of were very complacent. They got going a little bit. They got going a little bit early, then they took their foot off the gas. And I don't know why they just kind of coasted like that. They let Atlanta hang around. And then the Saints, who are 2-0, but are really grinding out these ugly wins. They ground an ugly win against Tennessee. They ground an ugly win against Carolina. They did not look convincing really in either game. So which team shows up in this one? Are we going to see this roaring Saints offense that we thought was going to be re-envisioned this year? Or are the Packers going to decide to put their foot on the gas pedal and not let up?
it's flip of a coin, honestly. Let's be realistic. All right, with the Saints, like you said, they haven't played anybody really great. They've had to grind it out. That offense hasn't clicked. Now, some people are like, well, wait till Kamara gets there, and the offense is gonna be dynamic and this and that. Well, you made Carr sound like he was the second coming of Peyton Manning. He was going to turn this team around and they were going to be on fire regardless of Kamara being there or not. There are times when he's missed throws, he's overthrown guys, and because their defense is solid, they've gotten through. They've gotten through. If you take out the special teams plays they've had in those 2 games and such, they could be 0-2. Now, Marcus May, I believe, is out their quality safety. So that's going to hurt them a bit defensively. I don't know. Between these 2 teams, I don't know. It's all, like I said, it's a coin flip. If the Packers can play like they did week 1, if that's the true Packers and they just had a hiccup last week, then the Packers should win this game. I think they have a good defense. Their defense, I think, is almost as good as the Saints. Yeah. I think, offensively, receiver-wise, maybe not as good as the Saints, but close. They've got young talent there. Their running backs are better than what the Saints have, I believe, overall. So it's just whether Love can sit there, focus, and do what he needs to do. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know.
Please look at Romeo Dobbs more because I picked him up in one league on fantasy.
Oh, jeez. Like, well, yeah, like he was for week 1 on fire. Week 2, it's like, where did he go?
Yeah.
I'm like, there he is. Can you throw it? Nope. Okay. Thanks, Romeo. Yep. See you later. I don't know. Maybe it was just a hiccup. We have to also remember that, this is Jordan's first real season. So, this is it for him. He's learning as he goes now. So I think they can beat the Saints. I don't think the Saints are this unbeatable elite team. They're really not. And I think for people who are like, oh man, the Saints are going to be great, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Right now, I would almost take the Falcons because Carr is being Carr. And let's be realistic. Yeah, okay, he'll get the numbers and such, but will he get the wins? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what I do know is we're going to be here live on YouTube to wrap up all these games of week 3, this potential mess of week 3. And
yeah.
I'm excited to see what we'll be wrapping up. Is it just going to be a lot of yucky, ugly performances like we've seen quite a few of already this season? Or are we just going to be recapping a whole new injury report?
Or we'll be sitting here for the first 5 minutes just looking, going, can you believe that?
What did we just watch?
I'm like, really? I go, do we have to talk about this? Can we just show the scores and just move on? I don't know. It's interesting to have the season go like it has so far this early is just weird to me. Injuries aside, we're going to find out. You're really going to find out what teams are real and what teams are pretenders, I really think. And it's a little sooner than I thought it was going to happen. But it's the NFL. That's how they write the script, man.
That's right.
I gotta get a copy of that thing, man. I could use some money on Underdog, some other sites, Donnie. Donnie give me some numbers, but Donnie, here's the script, man. Lead me to the promised land. I don't know, man, because this is gonna be a fun one.
Those 6 numbers aren't Powerball, they're all over-unders.
They're all numbers of injured players. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, folks, this is what I want you to do. Right
8,
now,
26.
You got Rodgers, Dobbins, Chubb, Diggs. If 2 more guys go out, season-ending injuries, play those numbers, and if you win, just float me $50. Float me $50. I'm not asking for a lot. That or name your dog after me. That'd be cool. I'll take that.
Take that, take us. We'll be on tonight, wrapping up the shows. Week 3, let's get into this aftermath. Bucks McGee, take us off air.
Folks, like we've talked, week 3, don't know what it's going to be. I wish you nothing but the best in your fantasy teams. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. We'll be back, and hopefully we'll have some interesting and entertaining talk. Enjoy week 3, folks.